So what do you expect me to say?
Let's get him!
I know you feel this way. Coming after you.
Hey there, what's up internet? My name is BlackLightAttack and welcome to part 2 of my coverage of the Pyromania update. So this time we're going to be covering the existing facets of the game that have been changed. So mostly we're talking about weapon balance. They've rebalanced a lot of weapons in this one. I don't think I've ever seen a single patch or update where they balance this many weapons. And keep in mind that the Enforcer was just recently toned down. So in addition to that, I have a list of the notes right here. Courtesy of that guy on Reddit who is always posting the patch notes in the TF2 subreddit, Wicked Player 494. That guy's awesome. So, first up, I'll just do it in order that he has here. The gloves are running urgently, also known as the GRU, the speed gloves for the heavy, no longer burn you while you're running. You no longer take 6 damage per second or whatever it used to be. And now instead you take mini crits while they're active. In addition, you take mini crits for another 3 seconds after you switch them off. So now you take more damage from players, but if you're running in an area with no enemies, you're not taking damage anymore. In addition, they buffed them in damage by reducing the damage penalty from 50% to 25%. So they deal a little bit more damage now. It's actually kind of a significant amount of damage. You're still probably not going to be using them as your primary weapon, but it's going to be great for humiliation kills, basically. I like this change a lot. I think that the GRU really penalized you too much for running in areas where there weren't any enemies, and especially after they nerfed the sandwich and you didn't have any way of quickly recovering your health once you reach your destination. It started to become less and less worth it, so I think this is a really good change. Also for the heavy, the Tomislav has been changed. The spin-up speed bonus now has been reduced from 40% to 10%, so it doesn't spin up nearly as quickly anymore. Unfortunately, I just crafted my Tomislav, so I don't have any footage of this, but that's about it for the heavy. Next up is the medic. So the quick fix got a much needed buff. Now when you are healing a target who blast jumps, as they put it, that is to say anybody who sticky jumps, rocket jumps, or flare jumps, while you're healing them, you will mirror their jump. You will jump in the same way that they do. So if you're following behind a soldier and he decides to rocket jump to some crazy ledge that you could never reach, the quick fix will allow you to follow him up there. It's pretty cool. The guy that I was testing this with in a pub server couldn't really rocket jump all that well, and he wasn't trying to like get up anywhere, but so I didn't really get to see the extent of it or how much maneuverability you have in the air or anything like that, but it is a really cool fix, and it actually gives people a reason to use the quick fix. Next is the Crusader's crossbow, also for the medic. They increase the reload speed time by 40%, so you can fire off bolts much more quickly. Unfortunately, I also crafted my Crusader's crossbow, so I wasn't able to show you guys this, but that is also a much needed buff to a very bad weapon. For the sniper, the Cozy Camper, the new shield sort of type thing that was just added recently, which nobody used because it was a piece of shit, has just gotten a buff. Now it constantly regenerates 1 health per second in addition to its other effects. They also reduce the movement penalty that you have to 80%. It's a little bit noticeable. You have a little bit more maneuverability while you're scoped in, but that's about it. That's not a bad change at all. It might actually give people a reason to use it because it will actually give you more sustainability without having to run away and grab health packs if you're getting pecked at by a heavy and you don't have a dispenser next to you that you can regen off of. Interestingly, even though it says it recovers 1 health per second, it actually recovers 2 health per 2 seconds. Even though it's the same rate of healing, it means you're not getting health every second. It doesn't really matter, but I thought that was kind of interesting. For the Demo Man and Soldier, who have the Sticky Jumper and the Rocket Jumper, they added flying sound effects to when you sticky or rocket jump with them. Sure. Sounds fine. Going back to the Soldier, he had a change to the Conjurer. It's sort of a side grade. It's not really a buff. It's not really a nerf. The Conjurer used to be able to build rage when you're dealing damage or when you're taking damage. Now it only builds rage when you deal damage. But on the flip side, they increase the rage charge rate by 25%, so you get 25% more rage per hit that you deal. I also crafted my Conjurer because that thing is a piece of crap. Now the big change to the Soldier, this is a major change. Almost every soldier in the world uses the equalizer. The equalizer has now been split into 2 weapons. This is obviously a nerf, but it's pretty interesting. So basically, the equalizer has always been the premier melee weapon for soldiers because it gives him much needed mobility when he's injured, allows him to escape when he's injured and find health packs or his medic, and it also, when it backs him into a corner, gave him a huge damage boost to his melee. Now that's actually been split into 2 weapons. Now there is the equalizer, it's still referred to as the equalizer, and that only deals extra damage on a swing. It doesn't make you faster when you're hurt more. The more you're hurt, the more damage it deals. That's it. It doesn't make you move faster. You also still can't be healed while it's active. Now, on the flip side is the escape plan, which is the other half of the equalizer. That gives you the speed boost, but not the damage boost. See how that works? Just very simple. It's pretty easy to keep your head around. You also cannot be healed while wielding the escape plan. What's pretty interesting about this is that if you have an equalizer in your inventory when you first load up the game after the update, it will split them for you, so you still have your equalizer and you will gain a escape plan in addition. In addition to that, it will also keep any special qualities it has. So if it's a vintage equalizer, you will now have a vintage equalizer and a vintage escape plan. If you have a strange equalizer, you now have 2 stranges, a strange equalizer and a strange escape plan. It's pretty cool. Really, I guess it's a pretty balanced change because there was really no reason to use any other melee weapon with the soldier, and now there might be a little bit more incentive to use other melee weapons, but I get the feeling that the escape plan is still going to be the premier weapon for the soldier because mostly people just use it for its mobility. Very rarely did you get any use out of its damage boost. For the scout, they have buffed his drinks. Criticola and Atomic Bonk now have their duration increased to 8 seconds. It used to be 6 seconds, now it lasts 8. In addition, Criticola now also increases your movement speed by 25% while it's active, so you kind of fly with this thing. That's a much needed buff to Criticola because it made the already flimsy scout even flimsier, and now you sort of have a chance to even better dodge all the incoming damage to sort of mitigate your mini crits that you're taking while also dishing out some of your own. Pretty cool change. I'm interested to see what some really skilled scouts do with the Criticola because I'm not one of them. And the last guy that got weapon updates is the Pyro. Now, it seems like the Pyro overall got buffed, but that's not really the case. Really, the only thing that got buffed for the Pyro is the stock flamethrower. Basically, the change states that all flamethrowers have had their base damage increased by 10%, but the backburner no longer has a 10% damage bonus over the stock flamethrower. So now, the stock flamethrower and the backburner both deal the same damage. The degreaser now has an added penalty where it deals minus 10% damage. But, again, since all flamethrowers have had their base damage increased by 10%, and now the degreaser got a 10% damage penalty, basically, the degreaser is doing the same exact amount of damage as it was before. Same with the backburner. The only difference is the stock flamethrower deals 10% more damage. So basically, it's giving you a reason to use the stock flamethrower again. There was really not much reason to use it over the degreaser, and the backburner was sort of a different beast altogether. But basically, the backburner sort of got a nerf. Not really. It's just less attractive now. It's exactly the same it was before, but now the only reason to go with the backburner is because it deals crits from behind. It doesn't really have any other upsides. The stock flamethrower is now quite a bit more attractive because it'll sort of meet you halfway between the degreaser and the backburner. It still has the damage of the backburner, but it also has the ability to air blast. It just doesn't have the weapon switch speed, so that's a pretty interesting change. And finally, the last item change is the Phlogistinator. It's been nerfed just a tiny bit. Now when the Pyro is taunting to activate his oomph meter, the damage taken is now reduced by 75% instead of 90%, which means it'll be taking just a little bit more damage. It's still going to be really hard to take him out unless you backstab him or taunt kill him during that animation, but yeah. I don't know, Phlogistinator needs nerfs anyway, so why not? Aside from weapons, there are a few bug fixes. I will leave a link in the description so you guys can read the full patch notes and see all the bug fixes for yourself. There is also a change that friendly players now glow when carrying the flag, so you'll be able to track them through walls instead of having to rely on the indicator on your HUD to figure out where they are so you can more immediately get to your flag carrier and assist them. In addition to that, I don't know if this is intentional or not because I didn't see it documented anywhere, but teams no longer get a crit boost when the flag is captured and capture the flag. That's a pretty interesting change because that was always part of the strategy. Everybody would get geared up to go and get ready for their crit boost right before the flag carrier capped. And sometimes you would see the flag carrier just holding onto the flag right outside the capture zone and count down for his team so everybody could get ready to utilize their crit boost. Now you don't get a crit boost. I don't know if that's intentional or not because I don't see it documented, but it very well could be. So that's one thing to keep an eye on. So that'll do it for the weapon updates. Thank you for watching, and if you did like this video or if you found it very informative, please consider giving a little tickle to that like button. I always appreciate that, and consider subscribing to me if you haven't already. My name is BlackLightAttack. See you guys in the next installment, which is going to be the new weapons that they've added.